Good afternoon. I'm Wendy Kasupanan, the assigned reporter in post-colonial Third Republic. So let's start. In 1947, after the United States relinquished all its authority over the Philippines, when we say relinquished, it means they give up. The United States gave up all its authority over the Philippines. So President Manuel Rojas issued the Executive Number 94, which renamed the Department of Instruction into the Department of Education. So, during this period, the regulation and supervision of public and private schools belonged to the Bureau of Public and Private Schools. So, under the Fourth Republic, in 1972, the Department of Education became the Department of Education and Culture, or the DECS, under Proclamation 1081, which was signed by President Ferdinand Marcos. On September 24, 1972, by Presidential Decree No. 1, the DECS, or the Department of Education and Culture, was decentralized with decision-making shared among its 13 regional offices. So, by following a referendum of all barangay in all the Philippines from January 10 to 15, 1973, President Marcos ratified the Constitution 1973 Constitution by Proclamation 1102 on January 17, 1973. Then, in order to establish a government that shall embody our ideals, promote the general welfare, conserve and develop the patrimony of our nation, and secure to ourselves and our posterity the blessings of democracy under the regime of justice, peace, liberty, and equality, the Constitution set out the three fundamental aims of education in the Philippines. The first one is to foster love of country. The second is to teach the duties of citizenship. And the third is to develop moral character, self-discipline, and scientific, technological, and vocational efficiency. So, in 1978, by the Presidential Decree No. 1397, the DECS, or the Department of Education and Culture, became the Ministry of Education and Culture. Then, the Education Act of 1982 provided for integrated system of education covering both formal and non-formal education for all levels. Then, this was an act for providing for the establishment and maintenance of an integrated system of education. Then, under Section 29, the Act sought to upgrade educational institution standards to achieve quality education through voluntary accreditation for schools, college, and universities. So, the Constitution requires quality education to be provided equally and fairly. For this reason, the courts have pronounced in a number of cases that failure to provide quality education violates the constitutional right to equality and such result in unfair discrimination. Under Section 16 and 17, the obligations and qualifications required for teachers and administration they were upgraded, and under the Section 41 provided for government financial assistance to private schools. These gets also created the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports. Under the Fifth Republic, a new constitution was ratified on February 2, 1987 and entered into force on February 11. Under the Section 3, Article 14 of the 1987 Constitution contains the 10 fundamental aims of education in the Philippines. So Section 3, all education institutions shall include the study of the Constitution as part of the curricula. So under the Section 2 of Article 14 of the 1987 Constitution made elementary school compulsory for all children. So, establish and maintain a system of free public education in the elementary and high school levels without limiting the natural right of parents to rear their children. Elementary education is compulsory for all children of school age. Then, next, On May 26, 1988, the Congress of the Philippines enacted the Republic Act 6655 or the Free Public Secondary Education Act of 1988, which mandated free public secondary education commencing in the school year 1988 to 1989. So here, the system of free public secondary education as provided in this act shall commence in school year 1988 to 1989, and that the students enrolled in secondary course offerings in national and general comprehensive high schools, state, college, and universities. So, next, on February 3, 1992, the Congress enacted the Republic Act 7323, which provided that the students ages 15 to 25 may be employed during their Christmas vacation and summer vacation with a salary not lower than minimum wage, with 60% of the wage paid by the employer and 40% by the government. So here, it is an act to help poor but deserving students to pursue their education by encouraging them employment during summer and or during Christmas vacations through incentives granted to employers, allowing them to pay only 6% of their salaries of wages, and the 40% through education vouchers to be paid by the government. The Congressional Commission of Education, or the EDCOM, report of 1991 recommended the division of Department of Education and Culture into three parts. So on May 18, 1994, the Congress passed the Republic Act 7722, or the Higher Education Act of 1994, creating the Commission on Higher Education, also known as the CHED, which assumed the functions of the Bureau of Higher Education and supervised tertiary degree programs. So on May 18, the Philippine Constitution created a law supporting for the strengthening of its education system by the virtue of Republic Act No. 7722, an act creating the Commission on Higher Education, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. So on August 25, 1994, the Congress passed Republic Act 7796, or the Technical Education and Skills Development Act of 199, creating the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or the TESDA, which absorbs the Bureau of Technical Vocational Education as well as the National Manpower and Youth Council, and began to supervise the non-degree technical vocational programs. So the DECS, or the Department of Education and Culture, retained the responsibility for all elementary and secondary education. This threefold division became known as the trifocal system of education in the Philippines. So the Philippine Constitution is an act creating Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, providing for its powers, structure, and for other purposes. So, in August 2001, Republic Act 9155, otherwise called the Governance of Basic Education Act, was passed. This act changed the name of the DECS to the current Department of Education, or the DepEd, and defined the role of field offices, regional offices, division offices, district offices, and schools. The act provided the overall framework for school empowerment by strengthening the leaders' roles of headmasters and fostering transparency and local accountability for school administrations. So the goal of basic education was to provide the school-age population and young adults with skills, knowledge, and values to become caring, self-reliant, productive, and patriotic citizens. So it shall be the goal of the basic education, provide them the skills, the knowledge, and the values they need to become caring, self-reliant, productive, and patriotic citizens. Then in 2005, the Philippines spent about $138 per pupil, compared to the $3,728 in Japan, $1,582 in Singapore, and $852 in Thailand. In 2006, the Education for All, or the EFA 2015 National Action Plan, was implemented, and it states the central goal is to provide basic competencies to everyone and to achieve functional literacy for all, ensuring that every Filipino has the basic competencies is equivalent to providing all Filipinos with the basic learning needs or enabling all Filipinos to the functionally literate. So, in terms of secondary level education, all children aged 12 to 15 are thought to be on track to completing the school cycle with satisfactory achievement levels at every year. So, in January 29, the Department of Education signed the Memorandum of Agreement with the United States Agency for International Development, or the USAID, to steal $86 million assistance to Philippine education, particularly the access to quality education in the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or the ARMM, and the Western and Central Mindanao regions. So, in recent years, in 2010, then Senator Benigno Aquino expressed his desire to implement the K-12 basic education cycle to increase the number of years of compulsory education to 13 years. So according to him, this will give everyone an equal chance to succeed and have a quality education, profitable jobs. After further consultations and studies, the government under the President Aquino formally adopted the K-642 basic education system. 1 year for kindergarten, 6 years of elementary education, 4 years of junior high school education, and 2 years for senior high school education. Kindergarten was formally made compulsory by virtue of the Kindergarten Education Act of 2012, while the further 12 years were officially put low by virtue of the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013. Although the DepEd has already implemented the K-12 program since school year 2011 and 2012, it was still enacted into law to guarantee its continuity in the succeeding years. So, we all know the former system of basic education in the Philippines consists of 1 year preschool education, 6 years elementary education, and then 4 years high school in education. Although public preschool, elementary and high school education are provided caters to children aged 5. So, a child ages 6 may enter elementary schools with or without primary education. Following on from primary education is 4 years old, 4 years of secondary education, which can theoretically be further divided into 3 years of lower secondary and 1 year of upper secondary education. Ideally, a child enters secondary education at the age 12. After completing their secondary education, students may progress to a technical education and skills development to earn a certificate or a diploma with 1 to 2 years. Depending on the skill, students also have the option to enroll in higher education programs to earn a bachelorette degree. So that's all. Thank you.